Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our PowerPoint class. My name is Alex Cooper. Let me introduce myself if you haven't been in one of my previous classes. I'm the computer instructor for the Columbia County Libraries, the Evans Library, the Harlem Library, and now the open Grovetown Library. Yay, Grovetown's now open. Yay, yay, yay. So let me go ahead and get started. Definitely feel free. We've kind of to say something in the chat. We've actually moved into being on YouTube, so it's a little bit of a change. So make sure that you're logged into YouTube so that you can subscribe to our channel and also give us a like. And that means you can ask questions. One of the big things about coming to when we do a class live like this, of course, I'm not teaching any classes on ground at the libraries. Staying home, staying safe, and all that kind of good stuff. And we're actually doing our classes virtually here. Oh, welcome, welcome. Welcome, videos. Glad to have you. Welcome to class. Okay, great. So definitely don't forget to like our videos and stuff. Let's talk about some of the stuff we've had going on this week. And of course, when we get started, ask if you have any questions. How can I help is usually the biggest question I ask. How can I help? What questions do you have before we even begin class? Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's talk about some of the classes we did this week. These, since we've just switched over to being on YouTube, these classes are still available on the library's website page. Tuesday we did Word. On Wednesday, on the Harlem Library page, we did geocaching and Munzie Basics. A lot of fun. You can go outside, of course, get some exercise out and about and search for geocaches and snap some of those barcode Munzies out there, QR codes. And also we had Excel, so those two videos are still available. And of course this morning we did Internet and Browser Basics. That's still available on our YouTube channel, so definitely like and subscribe. Sounds kind of funny me saying that now because we've been on Facebook and stuff. And of course we're doing PowerPoint today. Here's a list of some of the other classes that we have taught the last month. All these classes should still be available on their specific Facebook pages. Next week, we're going to be doing Scratch Intro to Basic Coding and Animation class, so definitely come out for that. It's a lot of fun. And then we're going to be doing the next day Scratch Let's Make a Game, which is it's a lot of fun too. I don't want to just say the same thing. But yeah, it is. And we're going to be talking about a new game, which is like a little boat maze game. Should be interesting. And then on the 30th, we're going to be doing Introduction to Raspberry Pi Computing and Project Ideas. And I actually have a new box that came in the mail yesterday. We'll do an unboxing, and it's got a whole bunch of different wires and gadgets and breadboards and all kinds of stuff in there and motors. And we'll be talking about some new project ideas. Of course, we'll be talking about the basics of using a Raspberry Pi. Coding, and also we were talking about the basics of arcade machine, making it into arcade machine, making it into a media player. A lot of fun stuff in that class. And also next week on the 29th, we're going to be doing Gadget Help, Q&A live with me. So it's a drop-in. You can kind of ask questions and see if I can help in any way. And then the Thursday at 11 o'clock, we'll be doing Google Search and Internet Safety Basics. So join me for that. We'll learn a lot of stuff about using Google, and also by special request, we actually have a little bit of an extra thing in that class, and it's about spotting fake news. So we're going to be doing about how to do research and stuff to make sure that we're getting the accurate information that we need. Also, let you know that our libraries are open with limited services and hours. Grovetown new library is now open. Yay! So curbside holds pickup is available. You can go to gchrl.org for details. Of course, you can call in the library Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, and also don't forget to like our YouTube channel and subscribe as well. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started. So we have our PowerPoint class. Let me ask, do you have any questions before we get started? Any questions before we get started or anything? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to post the handout in the chat. So give me 1 second on that. Oh, that is the wrong one, sorry. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom in on that. So let me post this handout real quick. So, and the big thing that I recommend too is that if you have me basically on like a cell phone or something, and then you can actually follow along on your main computer there, main computer screen. Let me go ahead and add that to the okay, and here's the link. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's talk about PowerPoint. Now my handout, because the library computers for our demonstrations and stuff actually still using 2013, that's what my handout is based on. But the PowerPoint I'm going to be using today is basically the latest version of it, because that's what I have on my computer, and that's what we'll be covering too. So with that in mind, we'll get to kind of cover all the different parts of it. So even if you have an older version of PowerPoint, that'll work perfectly fine, okay? Let's talk about what we're going to cover. We're going to cover starting a PowerPoint presentation, saving a presentation. We're going to talk about tab, menu. We're going to talk about using undo and redo, okay? Working with slides, and I'll give you the big secret, I like to say, about how to control slides. You'll have friends or family members that'll say things like, oh, you need to go first, you need to go on the internet and spend hours and try to find the perfect template on the internet. But I promise you there's plenty inside of the PowerPoint just by itself. I'll show you how we're going to unlock all those, and also control what our background will be like as well. And the big thing about using a template is controlling what the slide layout is. So that's what we're going to be talking about too. So if you ever done a PowerPoint and all of a sudden you set it up and then you change themes and all of a sudden it looks completely different, oh no, why is that? I don't want it to look like that. We're going to talk about how you can fix that. Okay. We're also talking about adding new slides. Okay. We'll talk about text, font, quick styles. Then we'll talk about our home tabs using select, and we're actually going to be doing a project about time machine, book report. So we'll kind of do all the round robin kind of stuff and cover everything. So we'll talk about typing, selecting our text, changing our font color, and also we'll talk about dealing with text boxes. Okay. Some of this kind of covers in the same way as Word class does. Okay. We'll talk about alignment, bullet points, inserting a picture, editing an image. We'll talk about the slideshow, designing, changing, formatting our background. We'll talk about transitions, Animations, which can be very fun. You can basically make your presentation into a quiz, okay? Then we'll talk about printing, templates, and before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Good thing about coming to one of the classes live is you can ask more advanced questions and I can answer those too. So definitely feel free to ask me any questions. All right, so let's go ahead, let's get started with PowerPoint. So why use PowerPoint? There's also, we actually have a class and we'll be doing it again next month about the Google Suite. The presentation program that's like that, of course, is very much like PowerPoint, and you can even save files as PowerPoint format. So you can open them in PowerPoint if you want to, or vice versa. You want to do presentations. You want to do a photo slideshow. In the basic photography classes, we talk about using and creating our own slideshow. But if you want to really control a slideshow, a photo slideshow, including music and stuff, and you don't want it to be a video, PowerPoint's a great way to go, and I'll show you how to do that too. So you can actually set the timing for the slides to switch back and forth to the next slide automatically. Also make a handout, make posters. PowerPoint makes it a lot easier. The handout, as you can see, I've actually made it using PowerPoint. And you just have to set it to portrait mode instead of landscape. It's a lot easier than dealing with everything in Word. Of course, in our Word class, we talk about dealing with our pictures and changing the wrapping of the pictures. But with PowerPoint, we just put a picture and it just kind of floats. It makes it a lot easier to get that job done. So let's go ahead and let's start PowerPoint. So PowerPoint pops open. First thing we want to do is click where it says blank presentation. So as we will deal with later, we'll actually talk about using our templates, okay? But right now, click where it says blank presentation. Now, big thing that's going on is we need to go ahead, and it's best to go ahead and save. I will say best. It's best to go ahead and save our document. And I don't have the tools, the toolbar down. They actually call this the ribbon with the different tabs at the top here, okay? So if you're not familiar with that, go ahead and kind of get familiar. You can kind of left click to go through the different tabs. If they are hidden, like mine were for a second, gotta click here where it says show tabs, okay? So let's go ahead and let's save our document. Now I'm using the latest version of PowerPoint, okay, with the Office Suite. It actually has an auto-save feature that's going on here. So it'll pretty much auto-save my file after I give it a name, of course. So let's go ahead and let's hit File. Well, at the very, very top, we can see it says Presentation. Let's go ahead and let's click where it says File. And then let's go and click where it says Save. We have one more step. Let's go ahead and click where it says Browse. All right, now, because this is an Office product, it tries to save it into the Documents folder so we can find it easier automatically. Now, usually maybe I clicked something, let me see. There we go. If I hadn't clicked something, this would have already been in blue. It's blue, so we can actually go ahead and give it a name. We can rename it, okay? So let's go ahead. And today is the 23rd. So let's call it Class 23 2020. Okay? Class 23 2020. And let's hit Save. All right, now we go back to our PowerPoint. We look at the very, very top. What does it say? Class 23 2020. That means that we're on the right track. Okay, so we gave it a name. Now we can hit Save if we need to. let's talk about our tab menu a little bit, okay? So usually what happens is in class, I'd actually have a printout, and then everybody'd have their own computer. And of course, we would go step by step through everything. One of the things we have to do here, because we, of course, I don't have I'm not sure if you have the thing in your hand or not. Of course, you probably don't. There are ways that you could watch maybe a class in the future and have printed out the handout. Good for you. But basically, I'll cover the topic with our handout, and then I'll open up PowerPoint, and then we'll do it with PowerPoint, okay? All right, so let's talk about our different tabs. We have our Home tab, okay? We have Insert, Design, Transitions. Now, some of these are not always up here. Just realize that. Animation, Slideshow, Review, and View, okay? Now, if we actually pull that up and we go through those, we'll see Home. Here's our clipboard area, okay? Here's our slides area. Here's our font area. Here's our alignment section, okay? I'm mostly focusing on the ones that most people use. Insert. Here's our insert our picture. Insert a table if you need to. Insert shapes if you need to, okay? And another text box, which is a big one too. Let's do draw. I don't really use draw much, so I kind of skip over that. Our design is where we choose our theme, okay? Transitions is where we choose what we want to happen in between it flipping from one slide to another, okay? Animations, basically we can make the text appear, reappear, move. We can time it if we want to. If you notice the timer before this, before I started, the countdown timer actually used the animation to do that. So every number that you see is actually a separate little shape that has a number on it. And all I did was I told it after 60 seconds for it to disappear and the new one to appear on the screen. And because I have them stacked on top of each other, it makes it look like it's a countdown timer, okay? But all I'm doing is I'm making it shift from one little animation to another within 60 seconds, and it looks like a countdown timer. So we have our slideshow. A big one here is our slideshows here on the left to start. And PowerPoint usually has a little icon up here that can start it. But if you hover, you'll notice that the key F5 will start the slideshow. A big one is if you've ever been stuck, maybe at a job somewhere, work, or even you know, just like a youth thing, and they're trying to start the slideshow and they're not even sure how. The big thing is to tell them to hit F5 on the keyboard and it'll start the slideshow. All right, so we have our review, and we go over here to the far left and it says spell check. Now usually we actually do see a red underline if our spelling is wrong, okay? Here's view, which we don't mess around too much with this. And of course we have our help. So let's go back to our home tab and let's go back to our handout. All right, now just to cover the undo and redo. The undo and redo buttons are there on the top left. There's undo, there's redo. Undo, of course, if you make a mistake, you can click the undo button. And if you click basically undo too many times, then click redo, and it'll take you forward a step, okay? Let's talk about working with slides, all right? And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make our first slide. Now, I am gonna mention it, and I'm gonna play with it just a second here to show you. This is the newest version of PowerPoint. So they've tried to add some new features in here. One of them is a design ideas, okay? And this one actually looks pretty impressive. One of the new things that they're trying to add is the ability to do an animated background, okay? So I don't think the rest of these are animated, but it's just suggestions, okay? If I click here, I'm just going to show this as a demonstration. And if it loads, let's see. Oh. So if I was showing this on the big screen, this would actually be my background, which is pretty impressive. I think that looks very, very nice. It's one of those where it's very short. It looks like it's 8 seconds long, but it's looped. So I think that would be a pretty neat thing to do. Someone coming into class. So anytime it pops up and says design ideas here, you can hit the X button if you want to. I'm actually going to leave that open a little bit so we can view some of the ideas that they have. But let's go ahead and let's start making our first slide. So usually the big one when we start our first slide is basically the title slide. Okay, so it'll actually say click here, add a title, click here for text or something. One good thing to note is when we actually do our PowerPoint, any of the text boxes that say, you know, click here to add text, that will not show the text when you're actually showing the, let me say that a different way. Where it says click here to add text, if I go in presentation mode, it won't say that. It'll just be blank, okay? If I type something there, of course, it'll show up on the screen, but it just lets you know. I've had it in class where someone goes, oh no, it's going to say click here to add. It's like, no, it's not. It's going to be okay. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's click in the title, and let's say the Time Machine Book Report. Oh, and I do believe, yeah, I sure do. I got a colon in there. So make sure I add a colon here on the end, and I'm going to hit enter to bring book report down to the next line. Okay. All right, now, oh, it's generating new ideas here on the right side, which is pretty neat. So this is kind of the flavor of the newer version. So you get a little bit of extra design ideas and stuff, which is pretty unique. Now, the next part we're going to do is we're going to actually add your name, because this is your book report. I'm going to say, bye, Alex Cooper. All right, so there's our book report. Right now it looks pretty bare, doesn't it? But we're still learning here. Our big focus is to get, oh, and look over here, it gives a nice preview of these different design ideas that they have. Okay, so let's scroll down here. Now let's talk about our different types of layouts, okay? So we actually want to create a new slide. We should just be able to go and click where it says new slide. Most of the time the next slide it gives us is what they call a content slide, okay? Now if you don't want that, you can click the layout button, and it'll actually show you the different types of slides that exist, okay? The different types of slides that exist are our title slide, title and content, section header, to content, a comparison one, which each individual section will have its own title, title only, a blank one, which you have to add your own text boxes, one that's supposed to be a picture with captions, and this one here, which I actually called the photo slideshow one. So it's very easy, and if you put a picture in that box, it'll actually resize it so it fits there perfectly, okay? And it'll look very uniform. So if you very easily wanted to make, maybe you don't want it to be too fancy, and well, that won't matter, because if you choose a different theme, it knows what it is and it can move it around. But anyway, then you can put your captions at the bottom as well. Now, depending on what theme you choose, these will look different, okay? The big thing I want you to get from this class basically is once I go up here and I click new, the next one it usually gives me is the content one. Okay, title, and it has content here at the bottom, and it's already starting to do a bullet points for me, right? Okay. Now, if I go up here to where it says layout, I can do this at any time, and to select the slide, I just left click it. Okay. So if I click layout, it shows me the different types of slides there are. Again, this is one of these, when we mess with these later, you'll see if we change the slide layout, it will be affected differently with the theme, okay? So if you've ever worked on a project, changed the theme, and then one of the slides did not look the way that you expected it to, maybe you need to change the slide layout to the slide that equals the one that you thought it was going to be, okay? So it's about the best way I can describe that. In a minute, we'll do that, and we'll all be on the same page about that. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we've chosen the title and content one. Now let's go ahead and let's add our words to it. So we're actually going to talk about our animation later. So we're actually going to make this a bit of a game show with our presentation. I do this when I do presentations. I really recommend it. If you have like a list of things, we're actually going to set it up later with our animation that we click, the name comes up the top, we click again, and it'll actually give us the other information. So we can actually ask our audience questions, and then we can click it kind of like a game show. They actually do have templates that will actually, you can create games like Jeopardy is a big one. I was actually part of, a few years ago, someone had spent time for basically, it's like a group at a work environment, and they had basically taken a whole bunch of questions about something the whole team had to learn recently, and they put it in a Jeopardy form, broke everybody up into two groups, and they just gave each person like a bell, kind of make it their buzzer, and it was a lot of fun, and it was really good. It only lasted like 30 minutes, but it was very memorable, and because someone had spent the time to make the Jeopardy template, it was really, really fun. Okay, so I do recommend that. That is a fun thing to do, and I'll point that out a little bit later. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to cheat a little bit so I don't have to retype everything. I'm actually going to copy what I need to say. So in the title, okay, we're actually going to paste there. I'm going to paste there. Y'all type it. The time machine was, okay. Then we actually have our bullet points here. I'm going to say written by H.G. Wells, okay. Now it already has a bullet point set up. So with the title and content slide, it already is ready that you're going to be doing bullet point stuff. Now if you don't want to do that, go up here and click undo the bullet point, or if you want to do numbers, you click numbers instead, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute too. I'm a big one about go ahead and get your plans down, and then when we mess around with the themes and everything, we can clearly see what it's going to look like. Okay, whereas if I go ahead and pick my theme first, I may not 100% know the content versus, whoa, this slide has to have more text on it, so I need to get a background or a picture or something like that that actually will, fit. So go ahead and think about getting your information down and then creating your PowerPoint. Okay, so we've got our 3 lines here. Now, these are presentation tips, okay? Presentation tips. A big one is to make sure that you're not too long-winded. And what I mean by that is try not to have it so that you're standing there reading the information. Let the information come from you. If you want to just use the PowerPoint as basically some cliff notes, as someone would say, or if you just want to use it kind of some reminder stuff, instead of this being a really long paragraph, the book was published in, blah, 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 Great Britain, blah, 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 blah. Here you go. All we need to know, it was published in 1895. Okay? So Actually, instead of restating, oh, the time machine was, I just have it at the top, so the time machine was. And everything below that is part of that. The time machine was written by H.G. Wells. The time machine was first published in 1895. These don't have to be full sentences because you have your bullet points in there, okay? Okay, now, since we added that, let's go ahead and we're actually going to, I want to go ahead and pop up and we'll do a presentation. So let me, because sometimes in class, everybody's like, yeah, we're making something this neat. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's do it. So we have spent, you know, a very short amount of time here. Let's go ahead and just click the presentation button. Now, on most of them, it should be up here. Remember, it is the F5 or function 5 key on your keyboard. Will start at any time. If you go here to where it says Slideshow Tab, you have some options. A lot of people will never use these other options here, but two that are important are the From Beginning, which is the F5 key, and From Current Slide. So let's say you had to exit a presentation for some reason. Do realize Shift F5 or whatever one you click here, click Slideshow and click here, will start the presentation on the slideshow you currently have selected. Okay, so I'm going to click From Beginning. Yay! Hello everyone. I want you to welcome you to my book report about the time machine, book report by Alex Cooper. Of course, I hit the space bar or I can click on the screen. Now, a big one is the recommendation is to have a clicker. Okay, they're usually not that expensive. Before you do an important presentation, a lot of the places, especially if it's for like a conference for school, for a college professor or something, you go in there and you say, do you have a clicker? Usually they'll go, yeah, I've got one right here you can use for your presentation. Now, the other side of that is to basically get a friend. The friend sits at the PowerPoint keyboard and then hit space on that, or if you have a wireless mouse, you might be able to work it out to have your mouse walking around and click. You just don't want it to, of course, do anything strange on the computer, you know, unbeknownst to you. But there are ways to do that. So how are you doing today? I'm going to take my clicker out and I'm going to click. The time machine was, and everything's on the screen, so it's not much of a surprise what we're going to talk about in this slide, is it? Okay, so ways I can move around the slide. A big one is, of course, you hit the space bar to go to the next one. You can actually go back by clicking the arrow to the left. Arrow to the left will go back as well. Most clickers will have an extra button so you can go back. The big reason is come up and said, okay, hey everybody, I'm going to talk about time machine, and someone asked the question, hey, the previous slide, what is your book report about? I can quickly click the back arrow and say, book report's about the time machine. And, you know, my name's on there as well. So a big one is to know the space bar, but also to know the two arrows, and also know the back button should be on your clicker. A lot of clickers will also include a laser pointer, which can be helpful as well. All right, so I'm going to hit space bar, and it'll say end of slideshow, exit. Now, how can I exit at any time? If I actually hit the escape key on the top left of my keyboard, that will escape the presentation at any time. Okay. All right, so let's go back to design now that we've actually done a presentation. All right, let's talk about our text. We're going to make our text bigger, and we're also going to change our text box style as well. Okay. And then we're going to mess around with a whole lot more fun stuff in a minute. Right now, this is kind of just kind of putting it together, okay? All right, so let's go back. So let's go to our first page. Now, there's two ways to select your text to make changes to it. The first way is kind of classic if you're familiar with Word. Left-click, hold, select the text. If you want to select more than one row, move your mouse down at the same time and let go, okay? This doesn't always pop up, so I don't teach for this, okay? I always teach for something that'll always be up there as our menu. Now, the other way that you can do this, because we're dealing with text boxes, you can actually click on the border, And also that shows the move as well. So the skinny up, down, left, right arrow will actually allow you to move the boxes around if you need to. And usually if you get it right centered, you'll see these other lines show up to let you know that it's in the center. This is pretty important when you're dealing with pictures, okay? So I let go. And if I need to resize a box, I get on the edge, but we're going to talk more about resizing stuff when we deal with our pictures. So I know it's selected. If I have the text here, this is kind of like a dotted line. If I left click the border, then everything in there has been selected. And then when I go up here, any changes I make, the whole text box will be changed, okay? So our first thing is we're going to change the font. This is our heading. We want it to be something interesting. Ooh, that looks actually pretty spacey, doesn't it? Good thing is I can hover and it'll show me a preview. Whoop. I was still previewing and I clicked. I can scroll down. Lots of ones on here. See, this is one of those of think about your audience, think about your subject. You definitely don't want to choose something that makes it harder to read your text. I think a book antique would do well. Maybe you want something a little bit more futuristic. Here's one that looks kind of like a horror movie. I remember a long time ago, there used to be one. We used that one Wednesday when we actually did the word class because it looks kind of like candy cane. So we'd use that with our candy poem. These are some extra ones. You can click them to download. Okay, I might go with, let's see. Okay, I'll go with elephant. That'll look fine. All right, so Time Machine Book Report, chose that. Now, do we want it to be bigger, smaller? Here we can do our drop down and it shows a bit of a preview, okay? The buttons here on the right are make them bigger or smaller, increase or decrease the font size. This is one that if you have copied something from somewhere else, maybe a web page, or if you've typed a bunch or made a bunch of changes to your text, you just want it to go back to just like it was when it was originally typed. Of course, you could do undo maybe, but if you click here, the clear formatting, then it looks like the default, which would be Calibri or whatever the font size that's set there. I'm going to do redo because I like my whoop. There we go. What about down here? Here's our bold, of course. Anything that you're unsure of, take your mouse, hover over it, and just like in most of Windows things, it'll pop up and tell you what it is. Do realize some fonts are already bolded, so it will not actually show up as bold. See, it's already bolded. No, I mean, this isn't already bolded, but if those are already bolded. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. We have under italics, which I think I may do that to this area here. I'm going to click the box, and I'm going to say italics. And I actually want my to be a little bit bigger. There we go. I think that font looks okay. Now, here's some of our other options, and I'm actually going to go back and choose my heading again. One is underlined. Now, if you went to the Word class, you realize that we have a bunch of choices in Word to underline. We only have 2 choices in Excel to underline. And we have 1 choice in PowerPoint to underline. Yes, it has 1 underline. Why is that? I don't know. But that's the way it is. Now, the one to the right of that is unique to PowerPoint. It gives your text a little bit of a shadow. You may or may not like that. Again, I'm very pro anything that makes your text more difficult to read. Even if it makes it cooler looking, then I wouldn't do it. Okay? This is a strike through. This is excellent if you have a family or friend that's a proofreader. It's always a good idea before you post something to have a friend or family member read through something, or work colleague or anything like that, to read through something And instead of them just erasing things that they think should be changed, just tell them to do the strike through, and then it lets you know that that should be deleted or corrected. Here's a big one here. This is the spacing between your letters, okay? So you want it to be very tight together, wider, because remember we're dealing with kind of billboard kind of stuff, something that'll be big on a screen. There you go. I think a little looser would be neat. I think that kind of more broad. Now this one here is about the sentence casing, okay? So let's see how drastic that looks. All uppercase, a little too drastic. Capitalize each word is what we have. We have one that toggles. Lowercase to uppercase. I think we'll do the capitalize each word. I think that might be best. All right, so here's the color. This is the highlighter, which just highlights the text. I don't recommend this too much. This is mostly for someone that just wants the classic thing of, I want to highlight stuff. A lot of people view this as making the background color, but as you see, it does not change the background color of the text box. We're going to deal with that in a minute, and we'll be able to change that to whatever we want. A big thing not to do is basically mixing yellow and red together. Someone that is colorblind, it makes it difficult for them to read, okay? Here's our text color. And you may have heard me say in the other classes, one thing to do is definitely don't choose a light color. Yellow would be very difficult. Don't choose red. It's supposed to be difficult for someone that has color blindness. But choosing a dark color, we'll say the dark blue or dark green or something. Kind of a grayish metallic. Here's a darker blue. Is that darker than that? Yeah, it's darker. As you can tell by the black text here and the dark blue text here, it really makes it stand out, okay? So even though you've chosen it, the color to make it really dark, it still makes it stand out because it is a dark color, okay? Now, let's go ahead to our next section since we kind of covered all that. Let's talk about our text box styles, okay? This is something that I will use a lot, just very quickly. You've got your text box chosen. You go up here to where it says Quick Styles, and it automatically does all this stuff. So you can just hover and kind of do with what you want to. Any of the themes that we choose, I'll say most of the themes that we will choose and play around with will actually have pre-made ideas of what they want to change the font to and everything. Remember, anytime you can go back and change the font to whatever you want to, even after you choose a theme. Okay, so let's see what goes well here. Let's see, something kind of light. Okay, that's kind of like a light blue. Okay, we can go with that. All right, so that kind of goes with our example. How you do the text box styles, you left click the box, go up here, and then it'll change it, say. Okay, now if you want more information than that, if you go down here to other fillers, you can actually choose those, and it gives you a whole lot more options as well. It has a whole bunch of that you can scroll down to. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about our alignment, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about our alignment and then talk about our bullet points. So now with our alignment, by default, with our text boxes, okay, it depends on what text box it is. This is a title text box, so it is set to the center. But as you see, our other text boxes in the next slide actually are to the left. So I can actually click up here. Oh, hang on. That's because I'm on that line. If I want the whole text box, I choose the border, and then it'll change the whole thing. It makes it look a little different, doesn't it? All right, so let's go on to our next one. So we talked about our alignment a little bit. You just have to be on the same line to make the changes. All right, now let's talk about our bullet points. Now, if you saw the word class, I kind of covered this a little bit, but it's always worth repeating because it is that important to talk about increasing and decreasing the indentation. So the big thing is this. I'll have folks have some issues with controlling the bullet points and then trying to do backspace and stuff, and then they have to hit enter and hopefully it comes back, and just don't worry about any of that. Okay? The big thing here is that we can actually control if we want it to be a sub or if we want it to be numbers or anything like that. So the big thing is, let's talk about our numbering. So we highlight what we want, and then we just go up here and we click numbers and it'll change it. Okay. If we click the drop down, the interesting part to me is that, see, this looks like a perfect checklist for someone, right? Well, Word doesn't have this, so if you are ever planning on doing like a checkbox list, I believe Ms. Joyce told us on Tuesday a good idea, the thing to use was basically making it, there's a wingding font that does have a checkbox, but if you don't want to have to worry about that or figure that one out, you can go here, start a bullet point list, and then change it to what looks like, you know, a checklist. So if you give this to somebody and say, well, here's your checklist. So we don't have that checklist in Word, and again, you'd think we'd have just a plethora of options, but we don't really. We just have a few. There's one that's like a little sailing ship that's colorful that's not even in PowerPoint for some reason. Okay, and if you choose the numbers, you can do the drop down and choose what you want those to be. Okay. Now let's talk about our sub. Okay. So you say, okay, well, I did 1, 2, 3, but I actually need this to be a sub underneath the 1, and I need this to be a 2. You can sit here and fight with it and do backspace and all that. I'm going to give you the secret, okay? The secret is you go up here and click Increase List, and it makes it a sub. I don't like that. It's the 1. Why don't you make it something else? Yeah, there we go. That makes more sense. So it increases the sub, okay? And if I want this to be a sub, there you go right there, or a sub-sub, all I can do is I click the increase indentation. And if I don't want that, I can choose a different one. Let's make that an I. And then you be on the same line, and if you want to bring it back, be on the same line, and click here where it says decrease list level, but it really means decrease the indentation. And then boom, you see it's AB. One more time, 2. And here's the magic. If you say, nope, I want that to be 1, 2, 3, decrease indentation, boom, 1, 2, 3. So don't pull your hair out trying to deal with the numbering or the bullet points. If you're dealing with sub stuff, mostly try to control what the indentation is by using those two buttons, increase or decrease the indentation, okay? Hopefully that's helpful, because it's a big help if you have a big project that has to use that a lot. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to do a new slide, and we're going to insert a picture, okay? So let's do new slide, and it should give us one that has title and content on it. And then we're going to do insert, and I'll briefly talk about our online pictures because it's a little bit different, and then we'll talk about moving our picture around, okay? I have instructions here by inserting a picture that you have on your hard drive. All right, so let's go up here and click New Slide. Should give us a title and content slide. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Insert Pictures. Now, this is the newest version of PowerPoint. So we have this device. This is where you would click to find the picture that's on your computer already. Okay. We have one. Whoop, go away. We have one called Stock Images, okay? We also have one called Online Pictures. Online Pictures actually just searches Bing. Stock Images are supposed to be a little more helpful. And we're doing Time Machine. Sometimes the stock images you can't find anything. If that isn't a problem, it's like we just had. Click on here, say Online Pictures, and this actually searches the Bing photos. So if I say time, and it has a checkbox that says Creative Commons only. So the idea of this is, instead of just going to Google Images or Bing Images and you're just copying a picture, which could be copywritten. Mostly I'm talking about a product that people sell, and it's based on a movie or something. I could choose some of that. This is like some artistic fan art going on as well. Ooh, I kind of like that logo. That's pretty neat. But I know I'm talking about the book. So I know this was in the original movie from the 60s. I click that and click Insert. Boom, there's my picture. Now, if you need to, you can have this. This is one of the things I'll have on there. If you don't have to have that, you can, whoop, I clicked the wrong thing. If you don't have to have that for your project, you can delete that box as well, okay? Now, we actually have our picture. Let's talk about resizing it. Now, one thing that will kind of pull your hair out is you'll actually be watching someone do a presentation, and they've actually taken a picture that was low resolution to begin with, okay, and they've actually stretched it to be bigger, and now it looks really blurry, okay. So try not to do that. Even if you have a picture that's smaller than what you want, it's probably best to have more than one picture that's smaller than one picture that's really blurry, okay? So you can actually resize pictures to be bigger if you want to. Of course, you got to think about how big it's going to be. If it's just going to be on maybe a 40-inch screen, maybe it won't matter. But if you're going to do it for like a big presentations with the projector, then that may really matter, okay? So if we want to resize our picture, we can get on the edge here. It's best to not do it. Best to do it on the corners and not the horizontal or vertical area. And if I go right here, left click, hold, drag in, then I can resize the picture. Now to move the picture around, I get anywhere in the middle here, I'll see this four-way arrow, up, down, left, right. Left click, hold, and of course I can move it anywhere I want to, okay. The other thing is, like, if I go up here to the circle, I can do the drag and drop and get it to kind of curve if I want to as well. Okay, so we have our picture, and let's talk about our picture a little bit. Okay, this shows me that it's centered in the middle. And if I do that, it shows me it's completely centered in the middle as well. And they actually have some interesting design ideas over here. That's why I decided to keep that open so we could see that. And we put our picture in there, and let's talk about editing our picture a little bit. So we resized our picture. Let's talk about editing our picture and also making it so that we can change the border on it as well, and mess around a little bit with the adjustment and color. Okay. Now, the picture format is not always up there. If you click on the picture, you can click a new tab that says picture format. The easiest thing to do is do a double click on the picture, and then that'll actually pull up this menu here, okay? One of the big things that we have that we can see immediately is we have our picture styles, which, even though that this has been out since the 2007 version, it still looks pretty amazing to me that you can very quickly click here, and then it gives it some style, I guess you would say. Gives it a different look, kind of fits into what your theme is, gives it a reflection. gives it a different border. I like this one that kind of makes it stand up, makes it a little bit 3D. You can make it look like it's a photo laying on someone's desk. Turn it a little bit. This one's kind of neat for beach photos or something. Circle one. Now the other thing is, any of those settings, these are all pre-made ones, okay? But you can actually go up here to where it says picture border, picture effects, and picture layout, and then you can pick all of these, okay? I will tell you this, sometimes what I'll do with my picture, and you see it would disappear, is I'll go up here to picture border, click black, just so that it has a little bit of a border, okay? Just a little bit of a border to break it up from the background. Especially if you have a picture that has if you're going to use a white background and this is white, then it can actually bleed in. It could look confusing. I just want it to be a little bit extra, a little bit different. So that's a good idea too. Here's a picture effects. It gives a little preview of all of those, like drop shadows, some 3D perspectives. You would not believe how many presentations that folks will sit in. You probably sat through two going, they just posted the picture on there. Why didn't they just spend like 2 more clicks to make it something interesting? I don't know why they don't do stuff like that, but it can make life a little bit more interesting, and it can surprise your audience, and that's what you need to do. Surprise your audience. Okay, so there's the 3D stuff on there. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about basically changing, retheming our picture. Okay. If we need to go back to its original size, which I'm actually about to do, just because I want it to be a little bit bigger. There we go. Where's my thing? There it is. Oh, hang on. There you go. Right in the middle. Okay. So if we go up here, we can do a lot of different options. I don't know if our background will work because it's not white or a dark color. It's kind of like a cloudy color, but I'm try it anyway. And all we do is we click that, and it shows in a bright pink everything that'll be translucent. And I will actually mark the areas to keep because that's a little bit easier here. All right. And the white area here should be transparent. Oh, good. And here. All right. So I think the rest work okay. Now, when we actually change our background later, that'll make a little bit more sense, but I'll say keep changes. Don't really see any major differences, but just kind of realize, oh, it kind of cut the end off there. Let me try that again. Why did it cut the top off? Whoop. All right, there. So I just messed with it a little bit. Okay, so now it's not just the blue background. We actually have something we can actually put in front of other items, and it kind of looks like it's more part of whatever we're going to be doing, okay? Now there's other things we can do as well. These actually allow you to quickly make changes, edit. You don't have to bring it into like an editing program. Different filters on there, make it artistic. So let's play around with that a little bit. So what if you had your picture, maybe it was too dim, maybe it was too bright. I think we actually look okay. It gives a little bit of a preview. Here's our sharpen or blur. Let's talk about our color effects. This is interesting to me because not only can you make something look black and white if you need to, maybe it look a little bit more artistic, which we'll play around with some of the other ones on there, but you can actually recolor. Show you. go. This is a great one. We'll talk about this later. This is one quick, easy way that you can use this as a background. So let's say I had a high resolution picture of this and I wanted to make it my background, kind of make it wash out or change the transparency on it. This will allow me to use it and put text over it, which will be still very easy to read. Or even you can use text boxes and make the text boxes background transparent a little bit, make them a little bit wider so you can still see the text and make it very easy to read. That's kind of neat. Now look, I can actually change the color of something. Now if I had this on the same page that I had our blue text, it looks like they're in the coordinating, doesn't it? Well, I could do that if I wanted to. Let's talk about our artistic effects. So if I go up here to artistic effects, let's see what we got. Oh, looks like it's been drawn by hand, doesn't it? Ooh. Ooh, little cubes, squares. That one looks interesting. Makes it look like it's plastic. That's still kind of like the original one we have. Okay, so I had a question that says, did they have the copyrights? Well, one of the things is when we insert our picture, this has been listed as common use. So I believe this isn't an actual picture from the movie. I believe this is like a CGI recreation of it. But mostly that's for someone that would want to take this image, put it on a t-shirt and sell it. Basically, no, you shouldn't do that. You'd have to really check out information. But for our little thing, as long as we're not charging or printing something out, and because it's for educational use, we should be fine. So it probably should work out just fine. Like I said, I think this is a CGI recreation from the movie, and I believe it is non-copywritten because it's probably out of date for that. But you never know. You have to really check. Mostly that involves you trying to sell something or passing it off as your own information. But if you're using it for educational purposes, which we are doing here, we should be fine. Okay, so that was a good question. All right, so let's go back to our handout. Oh, hang on. Oh, so I need to talk about our transparency, kind of lighten it up a little bit. Right now we cut out the background, so that is transparent. Like I said, you can tell it to reset. Now if you do need to crop anything, here's our crop button here. And all you do is, all you do is you get here and let's say I want to crop our picture a little bit sharper. Just move the squares again, let go, click somewhere else, and now our picture has been cropped, okay? All right, so let's go ahead back to our handout. We talked about adjusting our color. We talked about the artistic part. The color thing's really interesting because you can basically come up with the color scheme, and you make some of your text one color if it matches some of your pictures. It looks more like you planned everything out. All right, so we did our slideshow once. Let's go ahead and we kind of talked about this. We click from beginning. It will show, and if you choose a certain slide, you can choose current slide, and it'll show that to begin with. Let's talk about our design, the format background, and choose a theme. Okay. Now, since we're dealing with pictures, I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. with our final picture. I'm actually going to insert a picture, and I should be able to, give me 1 second here. So let's say I want my background to be a picture. So a lot of folks will deal with trying to find themes, and I'm going to show you how PowerPoint already has like thousands of themes already built in. You just change the color and stuff. But one thing that you can do is you can create your own theme for the background. One of the things we do that is we actually do format background, which is okay. So if you click design and go here where it says format background, this will actually show up. Right now it's set for solid. You can choose gradient, which is great, and it works really quickly, and then you can choose different patterns or colors if you wanted to. Makes it look really good. It's not just one stagnant picture. So gradient is a quick way to do it. The pattern fill, not really a big fan of this because I think it looks like a bunch of dots. And yeah, it can hurt my eyes a little bit. So no, I don't like that too much. Let's click where it says picture and texture fill. So this is really great. I can do insert. And I'm actually going to choose, I'm going to do I'll make it look kind of woodsy in the back. Okay. Like a nice little meadow. So he's landed in a meadow. Now, how can I make this my theme? Well, the way you make this your theme is you make it really light. Okay. Now, yeah, let's set him over here to be fine. So now, if you take text here, I'm going to say time. And if I want to stylize my text box, where's my thing here? I'm trying to get it kind of, what would be good? All right, I'll choose that. That'll look pretty good. Doesn't look fantastic, but it looks pretty good. And my background, I go back to my format background. There you go. And because of my picture, of course, I mess with the transparency on here. I could actually copy this slide and then post new text boxes by doing insert. And oh, am I still in the settings? Okay, so I need to close that. So I do insert. Okay, you're out of that now. Insert, text box. I'm just say from movie. So here's my text box. I can put it anywhere I want. I can change the size of the text if I want to. And I can give it a quick style as well. And there, I basically created my own theme. Okay, now, like I said, you can make the theme anything that you want in the background. Now let's go ahead and deal with the themes that have come, and then we'll talk about templates later. So let's go back to our main slide, and let's go up to design. So here's some themes that actually come with PowerPoint. Okay. Now the big thing that'll happen is someone goes in here and you hover, you'll see that the text is being moved around. As you can see, the by has moved over there. You may or may not like that. Do you realize you can move the text boxes anywhere you want? And we have what looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like we have 40 of them, and someone goes, well, I just don't think that's enough. I don't really like any of those. This one looks green. So I'll choose the one that looks green. So someone says, and look at our design flow coming up over here. And like, I don't really want it to be green. And this is kind of the way that each slide looks. Okay. So it has moved this here. It's got this green. I don't really like green. Okay. Well, just hold on. Do realize that there are variants over here. You can actually choose blue if you want to. There's a pink. There's this color. And you can actually go in and you see where it says colors here. These actually are anything you want. So this one preset could turn into pretty much anything you can think. So it's like 1,000 variations here. What is our theme? I think it may be a little bit more of a bluish. See, how much blue do I want? Actually, that looks pretty good. Time Machine was. Now, if I actually go back and you're going, why isn't that changing? Remember, you can change it to anything you want. If I actually went back and clicked this with my text, hold on, let me get rid of this. It's because of the text style I chose. But anyway, if I go to design, yeah, see, that's the same format there. Anyway, I can go in and make changes to anything that I see on here, so do realize that too. So maybe I think that text is too dark, or I want to change the background style. You can make changes to any of these. Oh, I don't like it being green. Okay, change that. Let's see, which one do I want? I guess this one looks pretty good. Yeah, all right, so I think that looks pretty good. All right, so do realize you can go back. Why is it doing that? You can go back, and because it's just these, some folks will say, oh, well, I don't really like that. That's just one of those. Well, believe it or not, if you go into the variants on some of these, it actually has different patterns and different graphics. Okay. Now, here's the clincher. Okay. So a lot of people will say, okay, well, maybe now this is the one we customized ourselves, okay? So it's going to stay that way because we customized it ourselves. Of course, I could go in and delete the background if I wanted to, and it would look like the rest of them. So you go here and you go, okay, well, I was hoping that I can make the second slide look like this one here with the background. Well, how do I do that? Well, the first slide layout, if we click here, is title slide. And if we look at the layouts, this actually shows what the different slides will look like with this theme. Okay, so if you want to, you could click 2 and then say change layout to look just like the title slide. And there's your title slide. Okay, again, if you don't like it, you could go in, move your text boxes around. Okay, make that bigger. I'll stretch it out. There you go. So then, there you go. You've made it the way that you want to. So do realize when looking at themes and templates and stuff, it may be that you need to go back in and change the layout to actually change it to what you want it to be, okay? If that makes sense. Okay, so let's go ahead. We looked at all these different designs, realized some of the designs, and again, even this one that we had our different variants of patterns, okay? It's kind of interesting. When I click the drop down here, I can actually choose a different color. Ooh, it looks kind of interesting. Well, it's kind of pink now. I want it to be more red. Red. You know, I can mess around with that and get it to change. If I chose this, it's too red. Kind of an off gray, has a little bit of definition to it. Okay, so just realize that when you make a design choice, you can have a lot of variants over here, and I haven't actually had to go search the internet for hours to find something that was a little bit different. Okay. This one even covered up my background picture, but I could get that back if I wanted to. And again, here's the different color styles. Okay. Oh, if I click here, talk about design ideas. I kind of like there's a brick wall there, which is kind of neat. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we talked about our design. We talked about our variants there. We also talked about changing the background from using the file or also searching for it online as well. Okay. Transparency is a big one if you're going to use the background because it can be cluttered, or of course you can make the text boxes, you know, the background a light color, or you know, depending on what you want if you want the font to be light color, make the background a dark color, and then it kind of makes it a little bit easier to read. Let's talk about our transitions. So right now we're actually going from one slide to another, so we actually don't have much effect going on. And I will go back and re-add. And where's my transparency? I guess it took it away. And I have a thing that says apply to all here as well. It may have cleared it, so I have to redo it again. Let's see. I still like the woods idea though. Interesting. So what's the deal? That doesn't have. That design will not let it have a background. Interesting. Okay. That's interesting. I guess it's because it's more of a newer one. Like that brick wall's in the way. Interesting. I could still put a picture in there and not just have it as the background, but have it floating and then just send it to the back. That's pretty neat. And the variant over here is oh, I actually kind of like that. Where was the one I clicked on? This one? It's like kind of the red idea because it kind of matches the other. That needs to be pulled out more. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that. Now let's talk about our transitions. So right now, if we do our slideshow, we click from the beginning. Hello everybody, talking about Time Machine Book Report. I click spacebar, written by, seeing it's hard to see the text there, so it's probably best to move that. Time Machine was, and then we'll talk about the movie, and thank you for coming. Okay, so that's what it's doing right now. If I click this, I can drag this all the way over here. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about our transitions. Then we'll talk about our animations. So transitions are what it happens, and it should be doing a preview. It's not going to give me a preview. Has a new one. Interesting. Let's see where anything happened. So transitions, basically the none, it just flips from one to another. A fade is kind of nice. Here's a push, a wipe, kind of splits it. Now it's in between what's going to happen next. Some of these will have movement. If you use one of their themes, it's not just going from one to another. The reveal's pretty neat. It gives a little bit of animation there. Surprise. And then we have some 3D ones, which are really fun. Now I'll tell you this, I would not do, let's say I had an hour presentation, okay? I would not do this where every slide had a wipe or whatever. You know, if you're going about a slide a minute, that could be daunting, but about every 5-10 slides have something interesting happen, or at least have it go from one to another, can actually make your presentation interesting. Now this is a favorite of mine right here, and I'm actually going to show you that one. What I do with it. Okay, that's not what I want. So I want the curtain here. And we want, what do we want on our first one? Now, because this is our first slide, these 3D ones don't really work. So you have to just kind of pick something that's kind of, or nothing is probably the best thing on our first slide, okay? Now, with our other slide, let's look at our reveals. Let's see. This one, the wind. Isn't that cool? Peeled off. It's like it's turning the pages of the book. Airplane is really neat. Origami. Dissolve, and then we just kind of have some classic ones that you'll see. Just fading from one thing to another. Just trying to have something interesting. Like I said, I wouldn't do it too much. But when you do it, make it interesting. Ooh, fly through. By using Microsoft's themes, then it allows you to do stuff like that. Where if it wasn't using the same theme, it may not look the same as this. So just kind of realize that. Ooh, random. Like I said, I had to sit through once or twice. Basically, someone found it really fun to do these. We'll do the fun one. The airplane one will be fun. Okay. Or the origami one will be fun. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's do our presentation. That's really it. How do you know when it has how do you know when it has a transition? You'll see a little star here. Okay. So let's go ahead and do slide from beginning. Now, here's your welcome one. You know, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about the Time Machine book report. My name is Alex Cooper. So glad that everybody's here today. And then this is what I really like to do with the curtain one. I love that when they're coming in, they see that is the title, and it's been sitting on the screen for a while probably. And then you click that. It's like now we've started a presentation. Now we're getting to the story of what we're here to learn today. So we're going to talk about the time machine was. So first thing, the time machine was written by H.G. Wells. Okay. First published in 1895. Okay. One of the first science fiction, film fiction stories about time travel. Okay. So I'm going to hit the space bar, and it's going to go to the next one. Oh. And it says a time machine. This is a photo of a time machine from the 1960s movie. And I'm talking about that, blah, blah, blah. And then a good thing is to usually have an end one that says, thank you for coming, you know, or do you have any questions, to make sure that you do allow time for questions. Okay. So transitions are neat. Like I said, I would not recommend doing it too much because it can get overwhelming. And I will even say you do it too much, it could get boring. But let's say every 5, every 10 slides or so, do something kind of fun, maybe not too drastic. Just looks a little different from it fading from one to another. Okay. Now let's talk about the timed ones. Okay. So folks will ask me, so let's say for some reason someone says, okay, well, I want you to do a presentation on something and you have 30 minutes or you have 10 minutes. Okay. And you go, okay, well, I'm not sure if I can do that. And well, I'll tell you one big thing that you can do. One thing you can do is you can actually control the timing of the presentation. Okay. This is about adding sound. I'm not real big about adding sound, mostly because the sound is troublesome. If you are going to add a video, sometimes videos work, sometimes they don't. If you go to Insert, and the newer versions of PowerPoint have gotten better about adding videos. Okay. So if I click video, it's mostly talking about URL, and you probably do need to use YouTube, and it'll embed it in some way. One of the problems is, unless you have it go into the settings on here, you'll usually have to click, wait for it to load, and then click it to play. Okay. So do realize that you may have to do that during your presentation if you're going to show a video. Okay. Now, in our transitions, one of the things we could do is you can actually set it up so someone says, hey, you've got 10 minutes to talk, and you go, okay, well, and someone will say, well, how should I begin? Well, think about the very, very least would be a minute a slide. Okay. So that's a good place to start. You're going to talk for an hour. 60 slides might be too much, but it is a place to start. Okay. A slide a minute, a slide every 2 minutes. Think about that. How much information are you going to have on each slide? Are there slides that you need to spend more time on? Well, you could actually set it up. And you would not need a clicker for this, because you could actually set it up to come play the next slide, let's say in a minute, 30 seconds, or anything like that. The only thing is you may not want to be stuck on a slide that the person's already asked other information about, a previous slide, or they want to continue on to the next slide or something. That's the only thing that you may still want a clicker for. Okay. But this way you could actually set it up so you know it's timed. You click the start. It counts down. It goes to the next slide, next slide, next slide. Someone says, hey, you said that presentation needed to be 30 minutes long and I couldn't do any more than that. That's fine. I've got the thing. It's going to time us, and it'll be exactly 30 minutes. And then it'll show the, thank you for coming message. Okay. And that is it. All right. Now that we know that you can set that up, they do have a setting in here that you can set it up to record your time. I remember where that is. I don't really use that much. Anyway, it is on here that you can practice and record your time. There you go. Here's a rehearsal timing here. You can set it up that way. And that's one way of doing it. The biggest thing is to know what you're going to talk about and understand it and really grasp it and try to get it down to bullet points if you can. Now, let's talk about making it into a game, okay? One thing you can do is you can actually add animation. This is one of those things where some people will overdo it with this as well, but it's okay. And I'll show you a quick tip too, that how you can do GIFs into your presentations as well, okay? So I will find okay, so I basically have gone to Giphy.com, and I'll show this real quick because it'll be kind of fun. So I actually want to show a video, not a video, but a kind of GIF pre-animated, you know, clip to play over. So basically I go to, I'm not going to show it on the screen because it's got a bunch of other junk on there too, but I mostly just wanted to show the one. So I've gone to Giphy.com, and the thing that they're showing is they're actually showing here one called it's a very quick clip, has no sound of course, from the Time Machine. All I got to do is I basically go up and I copy it, and then I can paste it into presentation. I gotta do it like that to make it work. Let me make sure. Okay, hang on. I didn't copy it properly. We all have to remember how we do something, don't we? Okay, so no. Okay. Give me a second. I gotta remember how to do this. I haven't done this in a while. But it's pretty fun when you actually get it to work. I probably should have just pasted it just like that, and then it's gonna work, right? No, it's not gonna do that either, huh? Nope. Hold on, hold on. There he goes. Okay, so all you got to do, and I pasted it wrong. So you have your image, you go there, right click, hit copy, and then if you right click, and it's the first one that you want to do, is the first regular paste. Okay. And let me see if we can move this around a little bit here. And I might even give this a border. All right, now there he goes. That's from TCM, believe it or not. Okay, so we have a little bit of a GIF that we've added in there, made it a little bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and let's talk about our animation, okay? I might even get this to slide in when we get to this slideshow to be able to make it more interesting. So with our animation, we can actually make things move, text. We can actually add shapes to get them to move around as well. Now my goal is this. My goal is basically for when we go to the second slide, it just says the time machine was, okay? And then when I click, the first answer will come in, the second answer, and then the third answer, okay? Now, we could make this more questiony if we wanted to. The time machine was published when, or time machine was published, have a question mark, and then have the time fly in. That's one way we could do this. But let's go ahead, and we're actually going to animate these, and then we're going to mark them as after previous for the clicks. Now, the first setting that they actually have on here, shoot, I didn't mean to close that. There we are. The first setting we have on here is we go to animation, and if we left click on the text box, we can choose like appear, fade in, fly in, float in. Some folks will just use this, just you click to give instead of just, it's a different way of transitioning, more let's see, specific. So that's one way to use the animation like that. But you see all these are moving in together. Whoop. See? Pulse, they just kind of move around, shrink, lots of great stuff that you can make them do. Change colors, kind of a neat thing if you're using a also remember these effects, like if I go up to the top here and I have it fly in, I can actually change the effect of where do we want it to fly in, which direction you want it to fly in. So, and also I have it where I can say one as one object, as one at a time, or by paragraph. So there's a lot of options on here, and there's even ways that you can make lines that the graphics will move a certain way if you need them to. Okay, I can see where you build some kind of chart and you have made a shape drawing and made the shape go up the chart like it's a bar chart or something. There's also exits as well. Our goal is I'll just choose the fly in as kind of one that I use a lot. There is bounce is one too, to have that on there. And then swirl, which I just showed that a second ago. And then there's our zoom, it zooms in. Okay, I actually like the fly in is what I use. So it looks like it's coming from somewhere. Usually I make it come in from the right, so it kind of slides in, kind of like movie. Now, we have all these other options here, okay? But the easiest thing to do is to basically go to the animation pane. So click the animation pane is really the best thing to do. So we have this set up, and then we click our little drop down here, and what does it say? It says start on click. So when right now, I click, it goes to this slide, and then I click again, and then that's when that happens. Now, how do I add the other animation? If I click this row, and I say add animation, and I want it to fly in as well. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. Hold on. Oh, hang on. Did that wrong. So they actually have it set up here. I can just click the 2. And what do I want it to do? I want it to start on click, and then I want the third one. There you go. So I think that's right. Let me play that real quick. No. There we go. So hang on. So basically what I did was I've chosen it to start on click, and then number 2 will come up. Start on click. Start on click. The other thing that you can do is you can actually go in here and say start after previous and put it on a timer if you wanted to, okay? So if there's a certain amount of time you want the other ones to come in. So now let's kind of get to our presentation. We're kind of getting to the end of our presentation here, and of course the end of our class as well. But let's go ahead and I'll show you this one, and then we'll work with our templates a little bit. We'll talk about making it into a game as well. So I'm going to click from beginning. So hello everyone, how are you doing today? Hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to talk about the time machine. My name is Alex Cooper. Glad you're here. Hit the space bar. We're going to talk about the time machine was. Now, in the olden days, we used to have presentations, and someone could have candy, and then you could ask them questions and toss them a piece of candy or something like that. That's usually how it's a great way to do a presentation and basically keep people interested as well. So that basically would come in that now, and we would say the time machine was. So who can tell me when it was first published? Who can tell me? Ah, okay. When do you think it was first published? Now, sometimes if they won't answer your question, you just keep going and answer your own question. It was written, oh, excuse me, I asked the wrong question first. That's funny. Who wrote the time machine? Okay. Who can tell me? H.G. Wells, that's right. And who can tell me when it was first published? Ah, that's right. First published in 1895. Who can tell me what this time machine is about? That's right. It was one of the first science fiction stories about time travel. So again, all of a sudden you've made this into just doing a presentation, getting up talking. You've turned it into like a game show. Okay. And look, there's our animation playing. It kind of livens it up a little bit, and it will continuously play over and over. Okay. Now, we could actually animate our graphic if we want to. And I think making it fly in would be kind of neat. Not from the bottom. We want it to fly in. Actually, it's funny because the thing didn't move in the movie. And we'll maybe make this fade in. That will look a little bit nicer. Okay, so we'll make the picture fade in, and we'll do we won't do on click. We'll do after previous, and we'll give it a second. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's start over with our presentation. Time machine. Time machine was. Who wrote the time machine? That's right. When was it published? That's right. What was it about? There you go. The time machine movie, and there you go. I clicked and it came in, and then there's our clip there of the movie. Okay. Who could remember the movie The Time Machine? That's right. It had this really neat time machine, didn't it? And there's your presentation right there. Thank you for coming. All right, so we talked about our duration. We talked about making it after previous. And right now, it's not just a click, click, go to the next slide, go to the next slide. It's actually a game. It's actually informative. It's visual. Now that we have a animated graphic in there, we've had things moving around, don't we? At our will. We've just made it a lot more interesting, haven't we? Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's talk about printing. Some of the big things are, so you do a presentation and someone says, hey, need you to print out your notes or whatever, your handouts. There you go right there. Our settings basically are full page slides. That's one way that you can print handouts. You can do a notes page, set up handouts. A big one is 3 slides per page, and I'm about to show you that as well. Okay, so let's go back to let's do File. We're going to do Print. Okay, so we can click down here and flip between the different slides. Okay. Now, right now it's set to full page slides. Now you do have some options here. This is one so they can put notes on. Now if you actually have, this just shows all the text from the slideshow if you want to outline. This is an interesting one here. Oh, if you do want to print out full slides, a good idea is to basically tell it to, where's my setting on here? Aha. There's a button here that says scale to paper. Where's my, oh, it already is landscaped. Sorry. Okay, so if we go here, we actually click. Do we have some other choices? One is having 3. This is one I remember people would do this a lot, expecting people to basically keep notes during the presentation, and I rarely ever really saw anybody actually do that. One interesting thing is I do not recommend giving out your PowerPoint when people get there. Okay, they will sit there, they will just briefly flip through PowerPoint. They'll say, okay, well, I know what he's going to talk about. Okay, I'm ready to leave. And if you say, I'll give you the presentation at the end, give out the presentation handout at the end, it's really best to do that because it'll keep them engaged, keep them interested, you know, until the very end, and then you can give them a handout too. And if someone did need to leave early, they can take a handout with them, okay? So usually when I print, I usually do the 4, and I have it set to landscape, and I make sure that it is set to scale to fit page, okay? What if I got rid of, yeah, that won't actually matter. But there you go, usually 4, print them horizontally if you need to, set it to landscape. That usually has it big enough so you're not using a ton of ink, but it's clear enough to read, and it also makes it a good handout with all your information on there, okay? Of course, you can change it from the color to grayscale if you need to. Okay, so if we dealt with that, we talked about printing. Now I'm going to show you the website. If I can pull that up real quick. All right, it thinks it's loading. Yay. Okay. So this is the Microsoft.com training website. This has more information than what we covered for more or less. If you really go beyond this, it's basically you know, project based. It's a very specific project, but there's good information on here. I covered most things that I've used in the past for presentations, and of course questions that people have asked. It'll actually go into 3D models and importing 3D and stuff like that. Oh, I can talk about that real quick. Because there is a kind of a newer feature here. If I do insert, where's my 3D on here? All right, so if you do insert, we can do shapes, of course. To do a shape, let's say like an arrow or something, you just click there and then you drag, and there it is. There's your arrow, and you choose what color you want it to be. Okay. Other shapes like circles, bigger arrows, you know, there's a bigger arrow right there. But you can also insert some of the newer things, which are 3D models, okay? So I'm going to say from the stock 3D models. I'm glad I clicked there because I actually wouldn't have mentioned this. I actually talk about this when we're using the Microsoft Photos app, which now has a video editor component to it. So it has all these in there. This is the Microsoft free 3D animated gallery. So we think we have something about a time machine. We will see. Maybe I can find a clock or something. Okay, here's a clock. Not as spectacular as a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but maybe it'll do what we want. We click Insert. These aren't really animated, okay? I'll move this over. It's already animated. I'll make this a little bit smaller. Ooh, maybe up here, that would be good. Move it up here. Oh. So you can actually make it turn, make it at an angle if you want to, because it actually is a 3D object, okay? And I should be able to give it a, no, I can't do that, I guess. Okay, now, if I go to animation, yes, I know, I can act now, this will not, if you chose like a dinosaur or something, it's not going to walk around. These are all frozen animations, I guess you'd say, or they're 3D models. That's the best way to say this, okay? But as you see, you can do some of the same things with the other. It has some unique ones that are on here. Okay, that one would actually be kind of interesting, I think, at turning. What about this one? Kind of makes it kind of go back and forth. That might be a little bit better. Here's a jump and turn. This makes it look a little bit more animated. Boing. And then disappearing. And of course you can do the classic with it, just like we talked about everything else. But these are very specific. And maybe if I can move him. Now that's starting to look really cluttered down here. But this is just an example anyway. All right, so let's look at our PowerPoint from this slide. Oh, I have it set that I have to click. And then he shows up. Yeah, so apparently it was set. I had to click one more time. So I can actually change that. So I'm going to change that. I just want to start after previous. And I also want that to start after previous as well. So now I've gotten rid of everything that required a click. So when I get to that slide, it's going to go ahead and just do everything. Here we go. Droop, droop. How about that? It kind of keeps it interesting. Okay, so let's go on back to our handout. And let's look at our templates a little bit. Here's one that's a big countdown clock. Here's one that looks kind of like Jeopardy. You can actually do a Google search and find one of those. Basically, I won't go into it too much, but basically the way that those work are if someone clicks the box, it takes you to a certain slide. And then if you click the right yes or no, then it takes you to the correct slide, and then it'll take you back to the front again. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. It can take a little bit of time to understand exactly how that works, but just know that you can do games, things like that, because it does actually have a feature where you can put like a little link and you click it and then it'll take you to different slides. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at our templates a little bit here, and then we'll wrap up class. So let's do File, New, and let's look at our templates here. Welcome to PowerPoint's here as well. And we can actually do a search. I'm going to click here where it says Presentations. Ooh, a lot of them are very colorful. Okay. Some great ideas. Just click it. These are all free through Microsoft. Let's see. That looks really interesting. This is one I've seen a lot of folks use. I think it has some other stock photos in there too. That was kind of nice. Okay, I'm going to try that one. So here's our template, and it already has a bunch of pictures in there for us. Okay, and kind of a layout. This one even has a chart set up for us already, and like a bar graph. There you go. That's great. There are ways that you can actually incorporate Excel into this to do bar graphs and stuff. Makes it a lot easier. I haven't really done that, but that's where the charts come into play. And it says thank you. So that's a very easy one. Of course, remember you can make changes to whatever you want. These are just suggestions. Okay. And now that you know that you can move text boxes anywhere you want, change any picture you want, and let me look at the layout on here. Yeah, so that swoosh is kind of a pre-made layout. So you could do that with other programs too, with other pictures. So let's see if I choose a, is that, aha! Did you see how that worked? So it has a picture in there. Oh, it has some nice directions here on the right side too. It has a picture in there, and if I choose a different layout, the swoosh will actually be different. Oh, well, that didn't work. It did the swoosh here. There we go. Can't really see the fish with that swoosh, though. Not that one. Oh, full screen, swoosh. There you go. There you go. All right, so just kind of some ideas to get you started. Do realize that you can find pictures, make any background that you want, and of course control the text boxes and the design suggestions. A lot of the times you'll see something on there that'll be like, hey, that's a great idea. And that's with our design thing that popped. It doesn't have any ideas for me. Okay, so here's some ideas right there. Okay, so we've come to the end of class. And we've covered a lot today. Do realize if you do want more training in PowerPoint, you can actually access to universalclass.com through our libraries. If you have a library card, go to gchrl.org. You basically sign in, you click Menu, Education and Research, click Continuing Education, click Universal Class, log in with your library card, and then you can gain access to their list of stuff. And they also do things like 8 hours of training on something like this, and then you get a certificate as well. Okay, so we have come to the end of our class. Glad you're here to join me. If you're just found our videos through YouTube, do you realize that we're from the Columbia County Libraries class, and you can visit our website at gchrl.org for more information. And this is our last class of this week. So today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll talk about some of the other classes that we have coming up next week. We actually have our Scratch, kind of our learning section. We're going to have Scratch Introduction to Basic Coding and Animation class on Tuesday. And that same Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we're going to be doing Gadget Help Q&A with me, which is a stop-in, having problems with an electronic gadget, your cell phone, laptop. Just come by. I'll be here for 2 hours to kind of answer any questions that you have. Also on the 29th, Scratch, let's make a game. It's a lot of fun. Come for that class. Bring friends and family. Virtually, of course, because all our classes are virtual. And also on the 30th, Introduction to Raspberry Pi and Computing and Project Ideas. And like I said earlier, I have a new box that came yesterday with a bunch of little gadgets in there, breadboards and motors and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to play around with that, and might do an unboxing of a Raspberry Pi 4 on that day too. And then on the Thursday at 11 o'clock, we're going to be doing part 3 of our basic internet. We're going to be doing Google search, cover that, internet safety basics, stuff about getting scammed, and we'll also have included, by popular request, information in there about fake news. Is what we're going to have a section about, identifying fake news and researching and not being tricked. How about that? Or scammed. Little side note, our libraries are open and our newly built Grovetown Library is ready. Woo! Yay! Open with limited services and hours. Curbside holds pickup is available. Make sure to thank the librarians for that. It's a wonderful service. You can go to gchrl.org for more details. Of course, you can call into the libraries Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And don't forget to like our Facebook pages so you'll get information. And also don't forget to like my videos or any of the other librarians' videos and stuff. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that's really it. And y'all have a great day. Thank you for coming by. And I will say bye-bye. Bye-bye for now. I'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.